Hello and welcome to 27 by 40. My name is Chris.
This is Emmett.
And this is a video podcast where we talk about movie posters. Each episode, we pick a year, and we look at the movie posters of that year, and we each pick our top 5. This year is 1996.
Yes.
So we've done a couple of 90s already.
Yeah, this is actually our fourth one.
We've
done 91, 92, and 94.
Yeah. So we're now we've done the early 90s. We're now in the latter half of the mid to latter half of the 90s. Yeah. Interesting year for posters. I had a hard time finding, it definitely wasn't as many, these are just bad as, some of the early 90s.
I agree. It actually wasn't horrible.
Yeah. But I had less, this one for sure.
I also
they were kind of all good, but none of them were okay. There was a few stinkers, obviously.
My big thing was, I think that the elephant in the room that I have to deal with immediately is just, I went very mainstream.
Oh, same.
On this one.
Same.
Which is not the case.
These are all movies that are either well known and I've seen, or just
which is often not the case.
Oh yeah.
For these, because I'm going on the aesthetic of how much I like the poster. A lot of times it's sometimes the most obscure or the most arty kind of stuff is the things that I pick. Mm-hmm. But on this one, it's really went for the mainstream just because that's just kind of how it worked out.
Yeah. I also think this is probably the right around the rise of what I'm going to say is movie posters, where this is when you think of modern movie poster, these are what I'm this is sort of the early part of what I'm thinking of. We're going to go from here into the late 90s, adopting more of this style, going into the early 2000s, really fine-tuning and honing this style of movie poster. And the poster of the late 70s and 80s, that is gone now.
Oh, yeah.
That's not going to sneak in as much it did in the early 90s.
Unless done as a novelty, where they're deliberately evoking that kind of style, Yeah.
But yeah. All right, so let's fire this off here with my first poster for 1996. And it's Muppet Treasure Island. So, a painted poster, which, I'm always going to go for.
Almost a little bit more it's almost a little old-fashioned in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a bad way, but just in terms of, it compared to
other
things of this time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's got the reason it's so low on my list, despite the fact that I kind of quite like the aesthetics of it, is it does do the thing where it's got, all the cast is floating heads.
Yeah. It just kind of shoehorns everything into it.
Yeah. Here's what to expect. Which I understand when it's a Muppet movie, okay, you want to show the Muppets. You're going to have the token human. You want to show them.
Yeah.
And so, you do kind of have to stick everything on there.
It's not bad, actually. Honestly, it's not that bad.
For me, it also has big Goonies vibes on this poster. The styling, even just the treasure on the bottom, the coloring, and everything.
Yeah. I'm thinking just kind of 80s in general. It's got Indiana Jones.
Yes, and that's from, because you had that last week.
That particular kind of painted style is a very, there's a lot of 80s ones with that.
And it's a lot of browns and golds and stuff. But of course, Kermit.
I like gold.
Yeah. But then, things Kermit and Gonzo, who are clearly colored characters,
they
pop a lot
they
more.
Clash, though.
Yeah.
You shouldn't put blue and green next to each other.
It's a bad color. Look at your color wheel. So I went with this as
it's pretty good.
Fine.
It's pretty good, actually. Seeing it this up close, when I was going through them, I was it's okay, but
It was one I had to go back to.
But seeing it this close up, it looks a bit better than what I thought.
It's quite a detailed poster.
Yeah.
There's a lot of detail.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that, as long as it's not...
I kind of wish it was just a little neat, maybe a little tidier in some ways. Like you say, it's kind of busy.
Sure, but I mean, it's in such a way that's the least bad way of doing that.
Yeah, sure.
You know, like if you're going to make one that has that much detail and has that much busyness, this is probably the way to do it.
Yeah.
Other than putting the green and the blue next to each other.
Yeah.
Which they definitely should not have done.
Yeah. They can't help it. That's what color they are. But
well, they could have arranged them differently.
That's true. Yeah. All right. So that's my number 5. So your number 5.
Yeah. So that's the tiny one.
Oh, okay.
But unforgettable. Ray Liotta.
This was really close to being on my list.
Literally impossible to find a good copy.
Yeah.
I really had no choice. But I figured since there was no, like, nothing special with the font, nothing really special with, like, the text or anything. It was really more just specifically about the image.
Yeah.
So I figured I could kind of get away with, like,
a
smaller, kind of less good one.
Sure.
But because like obviously when you zoom in it's gonna get the letters are gonna get a bit blurry, but the image still works.
It's a good one.
It
caught my eye immediately when I was going through them.
I mean, you know how I like, eye stuff is always particularly cool and creepy. Like if you can get some good eye stuff.
Well, you had Candyman in a
if you can get some good eye stuff into your poster, that's definitely a good thing. But I like the whole, the images in the eye and the
it's like multiple layers too, because it's like the iris is one image, and then
it's kind of like the thing,
and then the it's like a collage around.
It's like on a poster where you want to. Like we just saw the Muppet one, like where like you want to like get all the elements that are in the movie in there. Well, they did that; they're just all in the eye. And they're kind of distorted.
Have you seen this movie?
I think I saw it like back then. Maybe
I haven't, but
it seemed vaguely familiar.
It doesn't have like some kind of like sci-fi angle to it. Yeah,
because it's about basically they can extract like the cerebral, like spinal fluid or whatever, and then like implant the memories like in someone else, like to be able to experience them, like they can inject themselves and then they can see the memories.
Okay strange. And I mean Ray Liotta too, so. I might
it got kind of mixed reviews. Like some aspects of it were considered pretty good, but then it just was considered to have not quite worked overall, like not quite clicked. But
you know what does click though? This poster. It's good. It's very
good.
eye-catching.
It's definitely a 5 in this case. It's definitely my least like woo. But considering it's very up my alley as far as like what I usually go for in posters. I actually would have liked it to be a little less like realistic when it comes to like the actual like face part, because like actually seeing like the skin and the like eyelashes and stuff,
it's a little much. Maybe
it's a bit much. Like I think they could have gone a little more artistic with it, made it still clearly an eye, and then like had the middle part the same, but like with less like of an actual, like it just looks like it's like zoomed in on like someone's actual face, which is kind of creepy in a way that like it's the wrong kind of creepy. Like it's the kind of creepy you don't want. Whereas like,
it's not the good kind of creepy.
The other aspects are the kind of creepy you want. It's you got to find the right balance. So that I'm not a huge fan of. I think they could have stylized it more, like maybe desaturated the color of the around the eye, and just left the eye as like the main focal point. But it's still pretty cool.
I think that's actually Ray Liotta's eye.
I'm sure it's not.
Okay.
I'm sure it's probably like just some
stock eye footage. All right. So my number 4.
Oh yeah, Basquiat.
Yeah, Basquiat. This is a movie that I vaguely remember hearing about, probably at the time.
Yeah.
And this poster I thought like really pops.
Yeah.
Got the red, and then Jeffrey Wright in the. He's wearing the black jacket and his hair is all.
Is that
quite
Big
crazy.
Bird?
Yeah, he's got a Big Bird stuffed Big Bird.
Okay.
I won't bright yellow.
I will not question it.
This is on here because this is on here for 2 reasons. One, I really like the aesthetics of this poster. It's got this. It's this mix between like photo and art that I think is very cool.
Yeah.
I really like the color work. I love the way the text is written, like whatever the font is. Yeah. And I'm looking at that cast list. I'm like, I need to see this movie.
Yeah,
I like every single one of those actors.
It's like a bio thing, like it's based on a real guy.
Yes, yeah.
I think he died fairly young or something like that, if I'm not remembering incorrectly. I think that's why it's kind of one of those, like, you know, there's a legacy that, like, is a bit sort of...
But, like, young Jeffrey Wright, like, I love Jeffrey Wright.
I would have had no idea. I remember when that movie came out.
I don't think he was anybody.
No
then.
idea who he was. I had no idea until right this moment that he was that he was in this. Yeah.
But yeah, that cast of David Bowie, Dennis Hopper, Gary Oldman, Michael Wincott, Benicio del Toro.
Died of a heroin overdose at 27. So
wow,
the old 27 club.
Jeez.
But known for neo-expressionism in his art, as well as involvement with graffiti and street art.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, that's obviously a ridiculous cast.
Yeah. So, all right. So your number 4.
Yeah, Dead Man.
Nice.
Not a big, huge shock.
Yeah. Well, when we were talking about this year, this is like one of the movies.
This was another one that I was not able to find a super
good,
large version of. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think the black and white helps it a lot.
Yeah.
Because
I'll fix it in post.
Having that contrast, where it's like all you have is contrast, all you have is just like the black and the white and the shading. It's like it kind of helps with the.
Well, it's very clean.
Yeah, like it helps to not be as blurry and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, there's obviously a couple of different posters for this one. This is the standard theatrical poster, but there's one that is more of a close-up, like face shot, where I think he's got like the gun pointing.
Yeah. I almost went with that one,
actually. Which is also fairly well known. I think it's the one that you see on some of the maybe like VHS releases and things like that. But this is the usual. This is the theatrical poster and everything. And this
I like the Dead Man made from bones. Like I
mean, that was always the logo. That's the classic.
It's a great logo.
And I love the whole like the Jim Jarmusch film thing of like where it's like a little.
It's like a plaque.
It's like a little like one of those like nameplate kind of things. Obviously a great film.
It's a good poster.
Well, I mean, it's basically just. I mean, it's literally like the ending of the movie, really.
Oh yeah, it is.
But like. It's kind of interesting how when you can take an image and
out of
take it out of context,
right? It doesn't matter, right?
And like you choose the right image, it can work really well as a poster, even though it's literally just a shot, in many ways. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's
it's one of those like super subtle, like it's a dude in a boat, but at the same time, like
it has a lot of atmosphere. It has a lot of like.
Questions. I'm asking questions. I want to know what's going on here.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's an intriguing title, and I mean, I love the meaning of it in the context of the film is very, very excellent. And obviously, I mean, I'm a big Neil Young fan, so his music obviously is great for this. We both like Jim Jarmusch movies quite a bit in general. We've both seen a bunch of them. I mean, it's Dead Man. What more can you say?
It's a very good poster. Yeah. It's definitely it's a poster for a movie that I think, like, this movie flies under the radar.
A little bit. Yeah. I'd say it's fairly well known to, like film buffs and, like, people who are into,
But I think there are people who, like... the fact that Johnny Depp is in this movie has not elevated this movie to like a bigger public awareness.
I think this was a period in time where it was still like he was kind of just doing anything that he wanted to do.
Yeah, sure.
And there was a lot of variance in like how high profile or low profile the stuff that he was doing was, depending on what.
Pre-Pirates of the Caribbean. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Basically, like he wasn't like he was known. He was a big star in a sense, but like not in that same way of like, like post Pirates or like Robert Downey Jr. after Iron Man or like it's like that thing where you where they just turn a corner and you're just like, oh my god, it's like there was just
they went from famous to superstar,
to massively famous, to like far more famous just for being
household name
who they are.
Yeah,
you know. Whereas I think at this point it was still a lot of just kind of like, he'd done like Edward Scissorhands, which was pretty well known, Ed Wood, this, that, the other, but like he was still in a kind of phase where it was mostly just like just doing whatever he wanted to do, and
Betty and June.
Yeah. So yeah.
No, Deadman, good.
Yeah.
All right. So my number 3. Yeah. A black and white.
All right.
Again, super mainstream poster.
Yeah.
I
see, now this is what I'm sort of talking about with the whole thing where like how you have the eyes as a prominent feature, but then they kind of, because it's the black and white and the desaturation and stuff, or I guess that would be more saturated.
The overly saturated.
In black and white is weird.
It's overly contrast. It's high contrast.
It takes some of the detail out.
Yeah. And then just making the eyes blue.
Yeah, but that's sort of what I was talking about with the whole like thing with the Unforgettable, where it's just like I felt like having the like realistic like the flesh tones and stuff was a little much.
Yeah.
Whereas this is more
this poster in just regular color, not nearly as
like if they did that, but obviously they didn't. No, this was always the poster.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't make my list just because A, I'm not the hugest Scream fan, and B, like it just, to me, it's just kind of like it's fine. But it's extremely iconic.
Yeah.
Obviously,
that's sort of
another case of a series that was kicked off that continues to this day.
Unbelievably.
I mean, this was the year for it because hopefully not spoiling anything that's coming on your list, but the first Mission Impossible movie came out this year.
That's right. Yeah.
And again, like that's a movie
still going,
a series that's still going like nearly 30 years later.
Crazy.
So yeah, like Scream is obviously extremely iconic.
Extremely
iconic.
Yeah.
And it's a very notable thing.
I'm
actually a bit shocked.
I love the simplicity of it.
I'm actually a little shocked that they didn't put like the killer on the poster, like the ghost face.
Oh yeah. Well,
face.
I think probably that was like the sequel. At this point, the ghost face thing was still like.
But I mean, you'll see it when you trailer and stuff, right? But I wonder. Like, I would just think marketing wise, that's what they would use. And it's interesting to me that didn't really happen on the first one. On the first one, it was this.
Yeah,
which is
I assume it's Neve Campbell.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a bit hard to tell with the contrast and the zoomed in. And
I mean, it's hard to tell just because.
Also, I haven't seen this movie since '96.
In posters, they would often,
Yeah.
They would play with that kind of stuff. But
sure.
Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah. I mean, it's not David Arquette. I know that much. So
it's no, it's not David Arquette.
All right. Yeah. So your number 3.
Yeah.
The Frighteners.
Yeah. I mean, again,
very good.
Classic.
Very good. Yep.
Pretty well known at the time.
Yeah. It's a great poster. The fact that it looks like, it's just a plain white poster or like off-white poster. And then like something is pushing its way through the poster.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like, we didn't put any art on this poster. What are we going to do? And then
it's like it's the White Album of posters.
Sure. Yeah. And then the creepy face. It'd be like one of those, like, if you could get like a 3D version of this poster,
sure there was.
That would look that. So you could see it from
because that used to be a thing where you'd have like those posters,
like in those
often especially
those framed cases,
like the standing ones would often have like sometimes texture,
multiple texture layers to them.
So I'm sure that exists, but I guess it's a slightly more minimal, which is obviously a running theme that we both sometimes go for those minimal ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool.
Great catch line.
The white and then the green kind of ectoplasm.
Yeah.
For the title,
Good contrast though too. Like it fits without being gaudy.
Like green on white. Yeah. Well, they didn't overdo it with the logo, so.
But that's the thing. It doesn't. Well, because you're supposed to be looking at the creepy, weird face at first, right? Like that's what's supposed to get your attention. And
but I mean, it's the Frighteners. It's classic. It's
I mean, it's a movie we both love. Yeah.
It's like it was the first. It would have been the first Peter Jackson thing that I saw.
Yeah,
because
I didn't. You know what? I saw it and I didn't know who he was.
Well, of course.
Yeah,
I mean, most people didn't until Lord of the Rings.
I saw this because it had Michael J. Fox.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the case for most people, right? But like when it came out, I saw it and I was like, "All right, who's this Peter Jackson guy?"
Yeah.
Type of thing, right? And of course, then a lot of like his earlier films were all kind of available on like video and stuff by that point. So I started to go back and see like, okay, what's this?
Who is this weirdo?
So I think when Lord of the Rings came out, like I was aware, like, okay, going into it, like I think I was more familiar with Peter Jackson than I was with Lord of the Rings by the time the Lord of the Rings movie
because in much more recent memory.
I hadn't actually read the book.
Yeah.
I read like The Hobbit when I was a kid. But I had never actually read like Lord of the Rings itself at that time when the first movie came out.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, yeah.
No, because it was.
I thought you were much more.
It was the year between the first and the second came out that I got totally obsessed and like read the book and like learned as much as I could about that world and all that stuff. So I became like a real big Lord of the Rings nerd after the movie came out.
Yeah.
So,
it inspired you.
Yeah. So, but like I would have tried to find like as much of because like I knew about Heavenly Creatures. So I would have, probably Dead Alive.
Yeah.
So, I would have found as much as I could before that. But yeah, this was the first one I saw for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Jackson.
Yeah.
It would be a few years.
And I mean,
a few years yet before I saw Meet the Feebles.
Yeah. and like you say, I mean, obviously the initial draw is definitely going to be Michael J. Fox because that was at a time where it was still,
Bold, also, super bold. We're going to have Michael J. Fox in a movie.
Right.
Not on the poster.
Yeah.
Like, nowhere, like, just...
Well, they went with a more...
Like, no, name not on
teaser.
The poster beyond, like, the standard, like, indicia.
They went with more of a teaser kind of poster, like
yes.
a sort of like, oh, I'm intrigued. What is this?
Whereas, it's the kind of thing where you would almost see, like, this would be the poster you would see...
Like before release,
and then after release, you have a poster with.
I mean, I'm sure there is another poster that is like a more of a.
This became so iconic for the film. I like immediately though that I think.
I mean, even like the current, like the physical releases and stuff will have this as the cover.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a good poster. Yeah. So my number 2 is also The Frighteners.
Oh.
So that's why I was so in on it.
Okay.
Yeah. I ranked it slightly higher, but yeah, I really like that poster for all the reasons we discussed. I really like it.
See, this one has the coming soon on it.
Yeah. So does yours.
Oh, does it?
Yep.
Oh, okay, I don't see that. Yeah. I know this is the theatrical poster, so.
Yeah. But no, I mean that is exactly what it is. I mean, I remember seeing this in the theaters at the time and being like, yes, must see. Yeah,
awesome.
So I guess this is your number 2 now. Twister.
Yeah. Again, super mainstream.
Very
super kind of obvious, but I think it's a really good poster. I like the logo. I like the image.
It is hella scary.
Yeah, it's really interesting so scary. That they went
making
with
it
like the dark,
making making it black.
That's a very interesting choice. Yeah. Like just artistically and stuff, but it kind of works. And then like because obviously it's not meant to be like a real like nowhere in the movie does it look like this exactly.
No.
Right, because obviously, like even like scaling and stuff isn't quite, because like obviously like them in the foreground running, it's
a composite
part of the same scene as this, as like the house and stuff like that.
That barn getting just smoked,
but it works. Like it gives you the good impression that you get the actors on there, even though you can barely see who they are.
Yeah, well, they do the thing with them where they're slightly blurry.
Yeah,
and the whole poster has this bit of. That feeling of
like a haze,
like that, like it's a combination of the haze and that like when they do like in this movie and other movies with twisters in them, and do that like when it's like affecting the building and everything's like juddering and it's like it's like it can't focus because of like the intensity of the wind and the, you know, makes it look like this poster also makes this movie look like way more of a horror movie than it is.
Yeah,
but yeah. I mean, it's a great movie. I like Twister.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's not one of my favorites, but it's pretty good. But yeah, it's a good poster. Definitely does the job that posters should do. It sucks you in. No pun intended. And or maybe pun intended.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. I think it's a cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious because they're doing another Twister movie.
Yeah, Twisters.
And
it's like Alien and Aliens.
I wonder if it has a movie poster that can compare to this. Probably not.
Hard to say.
But that is that's a good one. It's funny. I clearly looked at this poster when I was doing it, but I kind of was like, oh yeah, okay, Twister. But like since you brought it up, I'm like, damn, that is really evocative, and that's a really good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting choice that they went with something so dark. Like having that sort of almost.
I mean, it's
that almost inverted.
Yeah, there's only like a bit of like, it is kind of inverted. Yeah. There's a bit of like light here, but it's kind of like, I mean, the tagline is the dark side of nature, so I guess maybe they were trying to play on that. But yeah.
I've seen that movie. There are no black twisters in that movie.
Yeah, no, they're all regular twisters. I just realized I have forgotten what my number one is, so this is going to be a surprise to me as it is to you. It's
okay.
It's Fargo, right?
All
yes. Again, very.
I mean, that's the best movie.
I mean, also
this year, but by far. But I'm not a big fan of that sort of, what is it, like a...
It's like a crochet.
Crochet.
Right? Yeah. I really liked it. I thought it was kind of it's kind of an interesting, like, thing to do.
It is, but not in a good way for me.
Oh, yeah, I think it fits the film because it's got, I mean...
Oh, yeah, I mean, clearly that's why they did it. I mean, they did it because it definitely fits the vibe of the movie. But I just don't like it.
It has the it's got elements of the movie on it, but like in this kind of very like weird minimalist way. Actually, the needle doing the work is like part of the poster, but not in the same style. Because
it's
obviously
pretty clever.
Yeah, it's like I can see this poster and I hear the accent. Right, like I hear the Minnesota in this poster, right? But it just I find it so just like evocative and striking for the film. This was like really early on. I was like, oh, I think this is probably gonna be my number one, and then it inevitably ended up being my number one. But speaking of number ones, let's see your number one.
The most mainstream possible choice.
I mean, absolutely, yeah.
But it's a killer poster.
It is a good poster. It was also on one like I was like, oh, is it the one?
Don't make plans for August. That's funny.
Yeah, no, very good.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, because it comes out in July. So yeah.
Well, and also, it takes place.
That takes place literally on July 4th as well. Yeah, it's a good poster. Almost like in some ways like invokes more than the movie. Like it promises more than the movie can fulfill. Like I like Independence Day, but this movie this poster is very intense.
I keep waiting for like. I'm always like, okay, eventually Independence Day will just be like, okay, man, it's really dated badly. It's just not that. It just doesn't really work. Blah blah blah. And it never does. It's a like, there are some maybe problematic aspects, but like, it's a product of its time, sure. But like, it works as what it's trying to do, and it's still probably the strongest. By far example of like that, Roland Emmerich
thing, for sure,
you know, which they kind of chased over and over
for decades now
afterwards, And I mean, to the credit of like, okay, fair enough, they at least tried to like do something different each time. But the problem is that like, well, you can do different, but you're not going to do it better.
Yeah, ultimately.
And so that's you may as well just go in a completely different direction. Which I guess the Moonfall or whatever?
Moonfall.
I guess that is. I mean, they kind of went in a different direction.
Yeah, they did. I mean, it's a movie.
I've heard good things about that one just being like so bonkers.
It's so goofy
and being like aware of how bonkers it is.
Yeah,
which is fair enough. You know, it's just when I think of things like, Day After Tomorrow and like 2012 and stuff, like they're
fun
just,
in the moment, but there's no lasting power. They're not
bad.
No.
Whereas like for me,
every
single time I see it, I'm just like, man, this movie just works. Like it's just like I can understand if someone not liking it. Like there's definitely things about it that like I get it. Like I can get that certain aspects of this would rub people the wrong way. But like if you just look at it for what it is and what it's trying to be, and you just like this is truly one of the ultimate like turn your brain off and just
sure
kind of movies, right? Because if you stop to think about every little thing,
oh no, it's goofy.
You're gonna be like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But like as a film, like as something that is put together just to be out there and entertaining, it's very well done. Like it really hits. Like the pacing is great. Like it has some great characters and actors in it that know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
In a movie like this, and they're just going for it. It has great action, it has great effects, right? It has.
I mean, those things are all great.
Yeah,
but none of those are requirements for what we do here, though.
No. I'm just talking about it as a movie.
And
why it stood the test of time. Yeah. When like you kind of think like something like that wouldn't.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, for sure. So, because like you think about all those movies like that have since like, I guess like basically like ripped off the concept of Independence Day and how like they're all flash in the pan, nothing, and it, like you say, it just no, it's the one you go watch if you want to watch that.
Yeah,
Although
I do think it make a good double feature. Do this and Mars Attacks because they're so different.
I mean, same year.
Yeah. Both alien invasion movies.
Yeah.
But like a very different take on it.
Wildly different.
But both a lot of fun. Both do what they do really well.
I was hoping, actually, when I was looking up, I was hoping Mars Attacks would have a better poster. It's fine.
It's exactly.
Well, I think the thing is it kind of actually like really does just evoke the movie, which is like it's a funny, goofy movie, and like which is like it's kind of a goofy poster, but
fine.
It doesn't.
It's just okay.
Yeah. It does not like this oozes with atmosphere. You know what? Actually, this reminds me of this poster. It gives me big like Godzilla vibes, like that kind of intensity.
Well, that was
it's literally
the next movie that Emmerich did.
That's right.
The 98.
That's
Godzilla.
right. He did do the 98. But I mean specifically like the maybe because it's got like the big laser going down, for like Godzilla's breath. Just the giant like, oh, here's a city, but like whatever it is in this movie is dwarfing it. In this case it's the I mean obviously the spaceship isn't actually that big. In the movie,
well, no, it is because the camera is right.
Oh well, the camera. I see. I see. It's a perspective thing. I see.
It's much closer.
Right.
Yeah.
We're next to the spaceship. The city's far away. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. Fair enough.
I mean, that doesn't work with the perspective because obviously
it's clearly zapping
it's showing as
the
if
Empire
it's
State
zapping.
Building.
Yeah. But like, that's because of the whole like.
It's
how the image.
They're trying to portray.
But in terms of how, like, if you watch the movie, you see everything from the perspective of like where the ship is going over and like you're under it, like the camera is like under it, right? So
also a very timely choice too. July 4th just happened. Don't make any plans for August.
I mean, you can now.
You can now. It's all right
because this movie has come and gone.
Yeah, we were saved. Will Smith saved us, so we're fine.
Yeah.
But So
I mean, let's give credit where credit is due.
Oh,
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff
really
Goldblum
was the VIP here.
Yeah.
I mean, Will Smith was important, but they really couldn't have done it without Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. When he was I guess this is still, he's in the limelight enough post Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Well, Independence Day would have been right in between the first two Jurassic Parks.
Yeah.
Which he was, because he became kind of like the main character in the second Jurassic Park, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. So that's the movie poster, our movie posters of 1996, which quite the variety there. Only one crossover.
Yeah, and quite a different, like, ended up quite different than a lot of our other lists. Like, a lot less arty and more just kind of,
like I said, there just
straight
wasn't
up poster.
That.
Yeah,
it was a lot of just like, these are good mainstream posters.
Yeah,
and you know,
but like you said, what was the other thing that was interesting is there weren't nearly as many on the 96 of the really bad, like where you're just like all those like monstrosity posters. Even the ones that were the typical kind of like, let's just
they were just
collect up all the characters and kind of just have them standing there. Even those were like done okay.
There was
none of those.
I didn't like balk at any of the posters.
Yeah, like none of those would have made my list just because I'm not really a fan of that style. But like, I was surprised that they were like, they were pretty good.
Yeah.
The other thing that I didn't end up putting on my list because I kind of just ran out of space. But if we had one more spot, there was a couple of sort of more rom-com-y type ones that I actually kind of liked. I really liked the 2 If by Sea one with Dennis Leary and Sandra Bullock. And I also really like the Tin Cup.
The Tin Cup one is a good poster.
With, Costner and oh god, what's her name? Renee Russo.
Yeah.
Which obviously I'm a big fan of that movie too. So I mean, it was on my like sports movies list and all that. So, but I do like that poster a lot. It's just because they were just kind of like ordinary, like oh look, it's just like the characters from the movie on the posters. They didn't quite make my list, but if the list was a little longer, they would have. One of those.
This was definitely a year where my familiarity with the movies was kind of more important towards like how I ordered them.
Yeah.
Than other years, because almost every movie that I had picked the posters for this, and the ones that like didn't quite make the list, like I had about 10 sort of like in the running. I'd seen every one of those movies, so it wasn't, it wasn't like these years where I'm like, I've seen none of these movies. It was, but that's the 90s for
you. Hopefully we get 2000s because we have not done
so we'll spin the wheel here and see where we end up. Well, that's the opposite of the 2000s. That's 1958. Yeah.
That's all right. I'll go for it.
Yeah.
We've only done, I think.
We only done one in 50s.
We've done one and it was early 50s.
Yes. Yeah, it was really early. This is
51, I think?
Yeah, it was, I believe, 51. Yeah. So this is borderline borderline 60s.
I'll give it a
at
shot.
this point.
I'm fine with that.
But
I'm all right with that.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching along with us, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks with our top 5 posters of 1958. Until then, I'm Chris.
And Summit.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.